is Tony DeMakis from Alliance Specialties and Laser Sales and the Manufacturing Alliance podcast. And this is my friend.
I'm Justine Ewald from TMA.
And we have an exciting new video series for you. It's all about manufacturing and what takes place in Illinois.
We are going to meet the people that run these companies. We are going to get on the shop floor and we are going to see what it takes to work for manufacturing.
Manufacturing is a thing in Illinois that more and more people are trying to get involved in. And so we're gonna find out the who, the what, the why, and we're gonna get put to the test and see if we can actually do the jobs that the people inside are doing. Where are we today?
We are in Prairie Grove, Illinois at Alliance Laser Sales and the Laser Development Center. And I'm a little scared. We got some activities today and we're gonna be put to the test like Tony said.
Let's do it. I can't wait to see what they're gonna have us do today.
I hope I beat you.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Manufacturing Alliance podcast. As always, I'm your host, Tony DeMakis, with Alliance Specialties and Alliance Laser Sales, where we are mold makers that don't build molds. It sounds ridiculous to say, but it is the truth. What does that look like? It means that we do all the things that you, the mold maker, don't have time to do. The polishing, the laser welding, laser engraving, hot runner repair, preventative mold maintenance. That's where we step in and we lend you a hand, right? It's really hard to find people right now, which means that there are going to be certain things that you can't do in your shop. We have the talent, we have the skill, we have the people to be able to do that and meet your needs for you. So if you have anything that you need in regards to any of that, we want to help you out. All you have to do is come visit our website at alliancelasersales.com for all of your mold finishing and repair needs. Along with that, we also build and sell our own laser welding and laser engraving equipment. We have a line of laser welders that are built here in the United States. It is called our ID1 series, the ID1 and the ID1 FW, perfect for mold repair applications. And it's all built here. Why is that important? It's important because American made matters, really, right? If you have a problem with your machine, don't you want somebody to be able to service it right away? Do you want to wait till they come from China or Russia or Germany or whatever that looks like? Or do you want answers today? Well, with Alliance, that's what you get. You get the service that you're hoping for. You get the service that you need. We build all the machines here. We design all the machines here. And so we're here to service you. That's what we do. We have, like I said, it's a line of laser welders and laser engraving equipment. And the beauty is, part of our core values is giving back, right? We want to continue to do that. And we believe that all of God's children come at a cost, right? Like God's children are not for sale. They're not free. They matter. You matter if you're listening to that. And that's why with the purchase of every laser welding machine, every laser engraving machine, a portion of that proceed will go to the Tim Tebow Foundation to help us put an end to human trafficking. So we want you to come and take a look at our machines and our equipment. We are going to be at PT Expo this month in a couple weeks, booth 1426. We want to see you at booth 1426. If you come by there, you're going to be able to sit down at these machines, whether that's the ID1, the ID1 FW, or the new Alliance Advantage, which is a fiber laser, or it's a MOPA laser, MOPA laser, laser engraving system. You're going to be able to use it. You're going to be able to test it out. You're going to be able to weld and engrave and see everything that it can do on the shop floor. And we are really, really excited about that. We've got a unique booth that we have not used before. We haven't set it up this way before, but we're doing it at this show so that you can experience what it is to laser weld and laser engrave right there on the shop floor. We're also doing something a little bit unique at PT Expo. So every trade show we go to, every event that we attend, we try to give back to the community in some way. We call it our E210 initiative, which is based on Ephesians 2:10, which reminds us that we are God's craftsmanship, created to do the things that he set before us in Jesus, right? So every event we go to, we want to give back to the community in some way. So what does that look like at PT Expo? Good question. I'm glad you asked. At PT Expo, we are going to be collecting school supplies, backpacks, journals, coloring books, things of that sort that we are going to be giving to local homeless shelters or abuse centers or children in need. We are going to be collecting these things and we're going to be distributing them. So if you're coming out to the show, we're not asking you for your money. We're not asking you to go out of your way. We're not asking you to take time out of your day because we know that you have a lot of busy things to do. You're going to the show for a reason. There's stuff you want to see. There's people you want to talk to. But if you can bring some school supplies, you can bring a backpack, you can bring some non-perishable foods, we will collect all of that at our booth 1426. And we will be distributing that out. And when you come by, I think we're going to have some shop floor coffee there so you can get yourself coffee, drop off some goods, test out a laser welding machine, and what else do you want? I mean, find out the other stuff that we do. It's going to be a great time. I hope you come out to PT Expo. It is honestly one of my favorite trade shows. I've been to MD&M West, great show. I've been to PT Expo, great show, or NPE and IMTS. They're all great shows. The problem is they're too dang big, right? You forget who you're talking to or what you're talking about by the time the thing is over. What I love about PT Expo is that it is a smaller, it's a more intimate show where you remember the people you talk to. It's about building relationships, not just running your mouth and yapping and talking about the things you do over and over and over again. So those are some of the things we have going on. If you like what you're hearing today, please go and check out our YouTube page, the Manufacturing Alliance podcast. Like and subscribe there so that you never miss anything that we have coming up. We have a lot of different shows coming up. We'll get to that in a second. And we have Make America or Make Manufacturing Fun Again that Justine and I are doing. I know we've been teasing this for a long time, and you're right. It should be out by now, but it's not because we're trying to run a business and get these videos out at the same time. But what does that look like? It means Justine and I go from company to company and we talk to them. We talk to the owners. We talk to the people that are there. We explore the things that they do, what makes their job difficult, what makes it interesting, why manufacturing matters. And then they put us to the test in a project or some sort of scenario to see who is the better employee. And we've done this a few times. I'm not going to give away the results. It's so much fun. Wait till you guys see this video. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be on the Manufacturing Alliance podcast site on YouTube. We will be putting more information about that soon. So make sure that you go check that out. And then one more thing, two more things, really. We have a new show coming up. I'm going to be part of a new show. This has nothing to do with manufacturing, but what it does have to do is figuring out what does it look like to live the good life, right? That's a question a lot of people want to know. What is the good life and how do I live that? A couple weeks ago, I had Jennifer Yale on the show, and we had a great conversation. There's been a ton of feedback, a ton of people wanting to dig in and explore that more. And so her and I sat and we talked and we thought, let's do this. Let's push a little bit further. Let's invite people into this journey with us and look at what does the good life look like and how do I get this good life? And so if you'd like more information on that, go to youtube.com/@LTGL podcast. That's Living the Good Life podcast. We're going to have our first show March 27th. It's going to be a really good time. And then last but not least, before we get into the show, here's an update from our friend Brian Warren. If you remember Brian Warren, he is a CNC machine operator and teacher at a local college. He's an awesome dude, right? He's really passionate about manufacturing and growing the industry and getting kids involved. And he has a son named Jake, and Jake has been battling brain cancer and different forms of pediatric cancer for a very long time. And so there is a GoFundMe for Jake and for Brian and his family. The QR code is on the screen right now. And I'm just going to read a quick update so that everybody knows what's going on with Brian, because really this is the thing that matters. So let's dig into that. He says, Marcia, that's his wife, and Jake made it to St. Jude's safely last Wednesday after a flat delayed them for 4 hours. St. Jude is going to do all new testing and scans before starting treatment. The experience there has been better for them so far than previous hospitals. They were able to return home for the weekend and traveling back today. The trip is much longer than the old hospital and has a couple of hours of 2-lane highway before getting into the intersection. Please continue to keep Jake in your prayers for a cure and recovery, and also for safe travels for both of them. When he does start to stay through the weekends, I'll be driving in with our daughter to visit them. So Jake is continuing to get things done, and we are going to continue to support him and his family. So if you want to make a difference today, the QR code is on the screen. Great family, great guy. Yeah, it's worthwhile. It's worth mentioning. It's worth talking about. This is what we do this for, right? Is to create a community. So the Manufacturing Alliance podcast is not here so I can try and become the Joe Rogan of manufacturing. That's stupid. It's here to tell your stories. It's here to tell the stories of manufacturers and what's happening in U.S. manufacturing, so that together we can make a difference. Together we can continue to grow the industry. Together we can start telling that next generation why they want to be part of this amazing thing that we're doing called manufacturing. So come along with us on this journey. I have a great guest today. It's going to be a fun show. I'm going to bring him in right now. My guy, Greg, how are you?
What's up, brother? I'm good, man. I'm pumped for this.
Greg Christensen from CMMSradio. We haven't known each other very long, maybe like a couple hours in total. Which always makes this way more fun for me, because there's not past history to go on. It's two people rapping about what's going on in their lives and what they're seeing and what's passionate, what they're passionate about, why they do the things that they do. And I can't wait to dig into this with you. It's going to be a good couple hours of our time and our lives. And so thank you for being here and digging in with me on all things manufacturing and maintenance and the works. I mean, so why don't we dig in a little bit? Tell people who you are and why they care to listen to us today.
All right. Well, I'm Greg Christensen, CMMS Radio. It's a podcast that talks about computerized maintenance management software, but it's really about the two M's in the middle. See, the maintenance management is really about people and process. So I love chopping it up about that. I like to bring on experts that can give us real insights into what's happening on the manufacturing floor. It also includes facilities, healthcare, all of that type of stuff. And the thing I really enjoy about this the most is getting the journey stories, finding some guidance, something that might help just one person. And occasionally I'll go to trade conferences. Sometimes I'll podcast the event. I'll do walk and talks. And it gives me a way to really stay connected to the industry that I was part of. I was once a co-founder. A very dear friend of mine, his name is Sean Dawson, founded a company in about 2002 in the CMMS space. And we were born out of a different environment that related to building maintenance management, facilities. And from there, it just keeps going and going and going, the journey. But I always want to kind of make sure I mention his name, because I say that I was a co-founder, but he was the founder, and I came in kind of guy two, like I always did with the other businesses we worked on. And this is a culmination of that and all the great people I get to hang out with, learn from. And for you and I, we met at MD&M West out in Anaheim.
That's right.
You were doing News and Brews.
That's right.
We got to chop it up a little bit, not a ton of time, but dude, I'm just stoked to be here and chop it up with you and just see where we go, man. No rules, no nothing. Let's rock.
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it. I mean, that's the way relationships and conversations happen, right? You can try to overplan things to death, and my experience has been the more I try to plan things, the more derailed it gets. So, I mean, that's just reality. That's just the truth of my life and what that looks like. So, reminder, if you are listening there, I can see there's quite a few people listening to us right now. We want to give you a shout out. We want to talk about the things that you want to hear about also. So if you're with us, go ahead and put your name in the chat, put your company in the chat. Just let us know that you're there. We're going to say hello. We're going to just announce that, right, to the people that are listening to us. And this is going to go on in infamy. So, it's a quick shout out for your business, quick shout out for you and what that's all about. So, Greg, why is all of this important to you?
Well, I think there's a lot of ways I could attack that. So
sure.
Just out of the gate, I see a lot of white noise out there, a lot of nonsense. I call it hogwash, where it's a vast kind of landscape when it comes to all the CMMS platforms out there. All kinds of stuff does maintenance management for
Sure.
your manufacturing facility or otherwise. And folks out there don't necessarily know who to talk to, why to talk to them, who to work with, where they're going to get the value. And it's really all about adding value. So I call out some of the nonsense, like everybody's slapping AI on their software solutions, and they're doing all this cool marketing stuff with buzzwords and all that.
Sure.
I get it, but I feel like people are susceptible to that and they don't know the truth. They go through a lot of challenges with who they hook up with, and sometimes that goes wrong. I'm not here to hurt the industry, though.
No.
What I really want is I want to help the users, the clients that need CMMS platforms or related. It could be enterprise asset management or things like that. I want to help them do kind of a better way of moving forward, really understanding their people and their process first.
Yep.
I want to do the same for the industry as a whole, where, if you've got people on the front lines that don't really know who and what you stand for, CMMS companies have a challenging time saying who they actually are, who they really serve, because at some point they become beholden to the numbers, beholden to the top line revenue. I get it. We're in business to make money, but I am always, always, always chasing the elusive win-win. And I want to be known for that forever.
Yeah.
Because something happened through maybe from my childhood into getting into the business world in my early 20s where that became important to me. Now, it kind of changes by environment, right? If we go,
Sure.
you get me in a pool room or a card room, all bets are off, baby. We can just do what we want. But I like this idea that people can thrive on their platforms, and it always comes down to basics, and there's too much complexity out there. That's why it matters to me. And then doing something like this, where we can connect and just have a real conversation, totally unscripted. I don't have to know everything. You can ask me something, and I'll laugh and say, I don't know, man, but I know some people that do. And I really do. I've been blessed in that the connections I've made, the people I now know that are very close friends of mine in this industry, I have a sense of who's doing it right and then who still has potential. So I want to do that for everybody. It's very lofty, but I'm not going to stop. I'm talking.
No, I mean, there's no reason to stop, right? I mean, that's all amazing things. We got some people with us right now. Let's see. We got William Sloan from William Sloan. Yeah. Good guy. Who else is here? We got Russell is with us. Russell Tatro from Foster Corp. Fran Eaton is joining us from the Technology Manufacturing Association. Love that association.
I see
Amazing people
Arthur
over there.
Field up there, man. He's MTD CNC. Shout out to Tony Gunn.
Yep. All great people. So, like I said, we want to shout you out. We want to tell people that you're here. We like that you're here. We welcome you here. We're excited to talk with you. So as we're going through this, if you have questions, please put those in the chat so that you can be part of this experience. It's always better to be talked with than talked at, right? I hate being talked at. That's like one of my least favorite things. That's why I did not do well in school, but that's neither here or there, or here or there. So let me ask you, why maintenance? Why is maintenance so important to you? I mean, we teased that in the beginning, right? Either you go with maintenance or you go with broken, you go with destruction, you go with extinct, right? You have to, it's gotta be important. So, but why is that important to you? And where does that importance come from?
So I think it's important to me because number one, if we don't have maintenance and we don't have good maintenance practices, best practices, if you will, whether we're talking about the industry or just life in general, things are not necessarily going to last. They're not going to run within their kind of, capacity or what they were designed for, whether it's a body, whether it's a car, whether it's something that's being made, the whole thing. And if we take that away, we really are lost. We'll have that destruction that you kind of cleverly put in the title. And the part of the passion, I think, comes from environments I experienced growing up when it comes to work and the kind of things that I saw that you looked up to, what kind of work you really want to do, and blue collar versus white collar, maybe a blend of those two things, being in some manufacturing environments, doing janitorial work that
Sure.
some people would say, oh God, man, you do custodial work and all that. It's like, get out of here. I was doing some of the coolest stuff as a teenager, working in environments where I was learning and I didn't even know it.
Right.
And the passion about maintenance management is how I can actually see how it makes a difference. And then even more so, I can hear from people how it's making a difference and how they're kind of thriving in their business, how it contributes to their life. So things like a proper maintenance program in any type of facility environment or manufacturing helps people get home to be on time for dinner, hang out with the family, or not have emergencies come up on Saturday and you got to choose between your kid's ball game or some other family event, maybe even emergency, and you got to get back there and fix a machine that broke.
Right.
All those things, I think they're connected. They matter.
Right.
I think that's part of where the passion comes from, but I have a lot of respect, love, and admiration for real work, the doers. A good friend of mine, his name's Brian Bieski. He calls them the doers, the frontline workforce. I talk about people that have been in the trenches. These people make a difference. And I am 100% sure of that because, as I said when I was first talking, if they take a half day off or take a whole day off and nothing's getting maintained, how's that road going to be when you're cruising around Illinois in February that wasn't maintained in some way, shape, or form? Bumpity bump, suspension gone, right? That's why I get so excited about it, right? And I could go probably deeper and try to make even further meaning out of it, but a lot of influences, a lot of things that I did, a lot of things that I saw. Like it's so fascinating to see the things that we have that get made. This hat was manufactured. That light up there behind me was manufactured, right? The shirt you're wearing was manufactured, and the machines, the facilities themselves, if they're not maintained, that just doesn't happen. And then you get into quality, you get into safety and all that kind of stuff. So I'm ready to spin out, brother.
No, I think I'm on board with everything that you said. I mean, I think what people forget is that, like you said, everything was created, everything was made, everything has a life expectancy, everything breaks down. It's the world that we live in, right? It's not a perfect world. Things break down, things fall apart. And when they do, you have two choices. You can either maintain things, you can take the time, you can take the effort, you can spend a little bit of money and a little bit of time now, or you can wait for disaster and you can spend a lot of money and have a lot of downtime and a lot of inconvenience. We talk to people about this all the time when it comes to preventative mold maintenance, right? We do both. We do preventative mold maintenance and mold repair. One of them is less expensive than the other. One of them is less of a rush than the other. One of them is less of an emergency than the other. We joke all the time that Alliance, we are not, like if you're going to put it in medical terms, we are not cosmetic surgery. We're triage, right? That's what we do. Somebody breaks down, something is broken, we fix it, we get it back to them. But how do you prevent that emergency? How do you prevent that rush, right? That's where the maintenance side comes in. That's the idea of preventative maintenance. That's what we all want, right? Like that's why we go to the dentist. That's why we get our oil changed. That's why we go get a prostate exam. It's not because it's fun. It's because you want to catch the problems early so that it is less of an emergency, less of a problem, less of a cost. And you can schedule those things out to work on your timeline instead of being, you have a kid's basketball game or whatever that is, and you can't go because the crap has hit the fan and now you're stuck, right?
Yeah. You make a good point here. And it reminds me of this concept of reactive versus proactive maintenance. And maintenance in and of itself is keeping anything in its base condition, what it was originally designed to do. And this is where, when you're building these strategies and you want to create something, let's say, for example, like a reliable plant, a reliable manufacturing environment. what's really important about that, and I'm shouting out Brian Bieski again on this one, because he and a lot of the people that I know will tell you your goal in any maintenance program build out, and the CMMS plays a role in that, but your goal, even without software, is to have the people in the process moving in a way that they're performing maintenance in a way that is extremely boring. The reason for boring is, if it's boring, it means everything is essentially running at its proper capacity. It's working. It's not failing. There's no disruptions. You don't have that downtime, which can ratchet up. And then, of course, the actual repairs, if you have catastrophic failure of equipment, is, we can make up any number. It's 5x, it's 10x. Some machines, it's way beyond that as far as what the impact is. And then it connects to the entire business. So you want that dialed in properly. You also mentioned preventive maintenance, which I'm a huge fan of that when it comes to, you're doing the basics and you're doing preventive maintenance on the different pieces of equipment in an environment. There's one caveat, though, at least. There's many.
Okay.
A lot of the people that are probably tuning in here would say, hey, there's a lot of ways we can go with this, Greg. And they're right. But when you're building out preventive maintenance programs, even with what you do, you want to get in a position where you can do what's called optimizing those PMs. Oftentimes we get OEM specs. We spec out a PM program on a certain piece of equipment. Maybe it's a rooftop unit. Maybe it's a boiler. Maybe it's elevator banks, on and on like this. When you do that, you're starting with something, but you want to find out where you're making an impact. So we always go back to the basics, regardless of what you're doing, and say, are we doing the basic fundamentals right? And a lot of this is not my own language. I get this whole process of osmosis from all these experts. And I think we were chopping it up before we started the episode today about an event that I was at last week, which was, I was around a ton of people. But I mean, a lot of that stuff that I'm saying, I think a lot of that makes sense to you because you hear about it in your work, in the people that you serve, right? The clients that you have, you hear about it at these awesome events that you go to because you get to talk to people and they roll through. And I know some of the people you hang out with at these events too. They all know this stuff pretty damn well.
Right. And that's the thing, right? People, more people are chiming in with the same thoughts. Here's Shivam. He says preventative is always better than reactive. That's true, right? Those are those things we're talking about. Here's a little bit of a longer one from Arthur Field. Preventative maintenance, one of the most overlooked things in my manufacturing career. So many people would rather react than prevent, right? Why is that? Why is it so much extra work for people to try and prevent? And they seem like they would rather react than put in the effort or thought or the time to maintain.
All right. Well, first of all, under different circumstances, I would phone a friend because I have my own opinions on this, and it's also formed by the opinions and insights of others. A lot of these heavy hitters that I know, they really know. They've been in the game for a long time. Even some of the ones that aren't decades in the game, they've really got it all put together. So these reactive states come from at least a few different things. So number one, the organization as a whole may not, quote unquote, see maintenance best practices as a value add to the business or a contributor to revenue. It's too often treated as a cost center. Other factors. We're out there as maintenance teams and people have what we might sometimes call a hero mentality. Oh, something broke and I fixed it. Oh, the line's down and I took care of it. Rah, rah, let's celebrate. Well, cool. Thanks for getting us back on. But if we would go back, slow down a minute, build out that process of basic fundamentals, how do we maintain things, and we get that rolling. Now we're cooking. We're cooking with Crisco, Suds, and with Draft, whatever you want to call it.
Yes,
now,
sir.
Everybody is under so much pressure to stay busy, put out all those fires. And the reason they're really reactive is they have never really been able to build and sustain a proper preventive maintenance program because of all those different resistance type things. You're not allowed to spend. You're not allowed to bring in a consultant to help you dial it in. You're not allowed to take the time to do the things. And, when you really want to be blocking and tackling, you're just firefighting constantly, and you can't get out of that cycle. That's why I said if you take maintenance away for a half day or a day, it will truly be a disaster. It will be quite devastating. I think I can stand on that one pretty strongly, and I'm probably not going to fall down.
Well, it's like maintenance is defense, right?
It is.
If you look at
defense.
like in sports terms, maintenance is defense. Like nobody ever thinks defense is sexy, but everybody admits that defense wins championships.
Damn right.
Like nobody wants to go watch a football game where the score is like 3-0. That like to your point, that seems really boring, right? Like you said, maintenance can be boring. Defense can be boring, like a big defensive game like that, but defense wins championships.
And
what
if
is your
it's effective,
purpose?
It's boring.
Yeah.
If it's effective, it's boring. But if you understand it, you're like, damn, did you see that move? Did you see how he spun inside? You're right there. You're right in the heart of maintenance isn't sexy, but it's not supposed to be. And if you look a little bit deeper, you'll see all the goodness, all the dancing. You just don't celebrate it. You just own it.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Each play doesn't have to be sexy. What's sexy is the freaking championship, right? When the confetti comes down and you win and you win and you win and you have this like dynasty because you built the team correctly. You're doing the things that you're supposed to do. You're not just, running and gunning. You have a process and a plan. You don't need to win every game by, 50 points. That's not the goal. The goal is the championship. How do you win the championship? Mm-hmm. I've started in my work life, even though this is so not a sport, to try and break things down with everything that I do in sports terms, because people like sports and they get it, right? And so we're building out a plan and a playbook. We're putting things together so that we can go out and win that next game, right? Mm-hmm. And when something fails, you lose the game. That sucks, right? You go home, you lick your wounds, you pout a little bit on the bus, and then Monday comes, and what do? You go in the room and you look at the tape and you sit with your team and you go, what worked, what didn't work? How do we get beat here? And how do we make sure that that doesn't happen again? What do we need to put into place? What do we need to put into practice? How do we change our process and our system to be able to tackle this in the future so that the next time this happens, we come out on the front side, we can see it coming. We look at the tape, we recognize, right? Oh, when they do this, we should do that, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's a lot of what you're talking about as far as a maintenance program. Yes?
It is. So there's a much kind of bigger picture, but when you start at the beginning, you want to do proper assessments. And I want to be careful with maintenance and reliability terms. I'm not the best at throwing those around. Sure. I would lean on all my heavy hitter friends to kind of get in and do that. But you want to assess where you're at now. You want to understand the problems that you're trying to solve. You want to have good plans for that. And with the way you're using football or team sports as analogous to how we do that, what you have to do, what you must do is learn, adapt, and improve. Even if you're just focusing on those basics. And another factor that comes into that when we use team sports like football as analogous to maintenance processes and how maintenance teams can move really, really well, we also want safety. We don't want people getting hurt. And when I want to tie it back to that reactive environment. When things break and you're in a hurry and you got to go fix something right now, that's a recipe for getting hurt. So there again, bringing back this concept of disaster. And right. I mean, it's such a fascinating topic where we can go in all these directions, and you're already kind of connecting it to regular everyday life things that people will understand. And when you start looking at it that way, now you're looking at the whole organization where maintenance lives inside of the organization and keeps that organization running. Yeah.
It's one of those things that's really challenging because nobody wants to pay for something to keep something from breaking, right? I remember back in the day, you could get the Best Buy service plan, right? Mm-hmm. And you buy a TV for $1,000, the service plan is like $400, and you're like, do I really want this? right? Like, do I want to spend the extra $400 on this thing? Do I want to invest the time and the effort? I'm sure the TV is going to be fine. I'm sure there won't be an issue, but inevitably something goes wrong, and then you got to call a service plan or Best Buy, and they're like, "Do you have the service plan?" You're like, "No," and they're like, "Oh, it's going to be, $700 or whatever it looks like," and you think, "Son of a bitch, I should have done that." Or you have the other side where you pay the $400 and the thing never breaks. It works forever, and you feel like, I wasted the money. I didn't need to do that. Why did I panic? Of course they're going to have a maintenance plan. Of course they're going to have this thing to try and sucker me out of more money. What do you say to those people that think, I'll just take my chances. It shouldn't break. I'm paying a lot of money for this thing. It's going to work out fine.
I would say you have to assess whether the risk is worth the reward. So you're going to save that $400, and maybe you're in a situation where if it doesn't work out, you can afford that. It's not going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
What you're doing from a maintenance perspective, though, maintenance is an actual investment in not only your people and your process and the things that you maintain, but the overall outcome. Maintenance is about outcome. It's about prevention. So it's a perspective thing. Now, on the TV and when we buy stuff, it certainly feels like a hustle. And if you spent the $400 on the TV that you spent $1,000 for, 2-3 years later, you're like, man, I could really use that $400. But the right perspective in instances where someone did buy that, you're buying peace of mind, and you're also buying that bit of insurance that means peace of mind. Now, the only kicker there is when it comes time to collect and you say, hey, something wrong with the TV I bought 6 weeks ago. Can you come over here and fix it? And you don't get that good, great service, and you don't get the outcome that you invested in. Now we got a problem. And that's the kind of stuff in the world of CMMS, maintenance, condition monitoring, AI, all this nonsense. That's where I want more accountability. Sorry, I keep bringing it back to that, but it just all seems to reflect
No, it's fair. It's fair. Jason Latimer agrees with you. He says the run to fail. I like that. The run to fail mentality leads to unexpected downtime, higher costs, negatively impacting productivity, and, to your point, safety.
100%, man. Right? Jason and I have traded some comments. I've seen some stuff that he was on, and someday I'm hoping to have him on CMMS Radio, but he is spot on. And it's really that simple. And here's another thing. You ask me why, CMMS Radio, and it's being made overly complicated for folks. And he just called it out right there. And I would suspect, even if we put out a survey, I don't know if you can do that, but with everybody that's in attendance, they would say, man, that is just what it is. And if you're going to overcomplicate it, that's when you got to pause and say, hey, why is this starting to not make sense? Probably because you've added in something to your process that doesn't actually help it. Keep it simple, get it dialed in, and then replicate. Keep on going. And here's another thing I'll put on top, and not just what Jason was saying, but what we're talking about here. When you are maintaining things, you have to maintain that process as well. And what that means is you need to adopt and incorporate strategies where you're staying in touch with your team, where you're watching and assessing that process, not to get your people in trouble and jam them up. If you got them using a work order system and filling it out, let them know, hey, we're not babysitting. We're getting good contextual data. So that's why we're doing it. But if you let that kind of go to the background, you're going to jam yourself up again. So you see how it's all kind of, I don't know, cyclical maybe?
It is. And if you look at, Larry James, he says it's about culture, right? It is about culture. You have to be able to have a relationship with your team where they can understand why you're doing this and why this is important. Your safety is really important to me. We need to make sure that we're maintaining these things correctly, because we can't have somebody get injured, right? We can't have something go off the rails when it could be preventable. That's bad for us. It's bad for you. It's bad for everybody. We don't want to do that.
Yeah, and to build on this concept of culture, and Larry James is, in a word, it's the culture, your people and your process. That's all about the culture. And there's another thing I want to shout out. Bob Latino. I refer to him as the godfather of the HLM, and HLM is a high-level meeting. This guy, him and his brother, amazing. Shout out to both Bob and Ken Latino. But there's this concept of the blame game. And what Larry was talking about with culture, a culture of excellence does not play the blame game. They play the problem-solving game. They play the accountability game. They say, hey, I screwed up. I had a blind spot. Did anybody else see it? Can you help me shore that up and get rid of it? And that's what this is all about. It is always going to come back down to your people, the human side of things, better communication. And when you don't play that blame game and people can say it like it is, it's okay if they're a little aggravated or something like that. We don't have to get butthurt when somebody says, oh man, you really screwed that up, but move on from that quick because they probably know it. Let's find an opportunity to learn and improve. I mean, I get fired up over this stuff, man. I love that Larry said culture.
I love what you just said so much because really you can talk about maintenance in machines or your shop or whatever that looks like till you're blue in the face. And the truth of the matter is we also need to maintain ourselves, not just physically, but our performance and where we're at. And, you know, we need as leaders, as people in manufacturing, but I think as in particular as leaders, we need people to be the maintenance system that you're talking about. We need to trust them, right? Like when something goes off, whether that's us or we fail as leaders, as owners, as management, whatever that looks like, we have to be open and honest to ourselves to be able to hear those concerns, hear those warning signs, those bells and whistles, and go, okay, I really need to look at this, right? Like this is a warning for something catastrophic. You have to have the proper culture and the humility to be able to look at those things when people bring something to your attention and say, hey, you know, Tony, I feel like you're falling short in this area. I feel like you're overcommitting yourself in all these things. Things are falling through the cracks. You need to be better about this. I have two responses. I can go, you know, F off. You don't know what you're talking about. Leave me alone. It's fine. I didn't ask you for your opinion. Or I can say, you know what? I think you're right. I think I do need a to-do list. I think I do need to look at the things I'm actually doing and see, are there things that I can pass off to other people? Are there things that I shouldn't be doing anymore? Are there areas that I can improve? Where are you right? Where are you wrong? What does that look like? And trust people and trust yourself to be able to like look at those things honestly and through a lens of humility, recognizing that, listen, we're not all great at everything and we can't do all the things. It's impossible.
It's impossible. And man, you were talking about that. And so I told you before, I did this awesome like factory site tour, right? And I can't talk about
let's talk
which
about
site
that.
it was, but so last week I was out in, first of all, Greenville, South Carolina for what's called the Streamline Asset Management User Conference. Really awesome. Special event. A lot of people helping everyone with their asset management kind of approaches, what they're doing with technology. But really, it was always coming back to those basics. And then what are our opportunities? A lot of good stuff there. So shout out to Digital Thinker for bringing me out to that. And I had this awesome podcast rig that Reliability X, my friend George Williams and team brought down for me and set it up. I mean, I can't even tell you what this thing cost. And it was, awesome. I screwed up. I screwed up on a couple of things. And when I got back and started looking at the footage, I'm like, oh, I switched to this button a little bit too late. And I was storming around the house like, damn it, I can't believe I did that. And then I said, wait a minute, let me take some accountability here. So that's that. Now I won't do that in the future, but I can do a quick little intro when those people are coming in on the episode. Now, so that was me trying to find a way to take ownership and be accountable and, you know, no big deal. Now, getting back to that factory tour. So then I ended up out in Spartanburg, South Carolina for this awesome tour. And I got to meet with some people. So I happen to be an upkeep ambassador. That's a CMMS solution out there. And as an ambassador, what I'm doing is I'm helping people understand how they're using the system or what they're doing, and I can get them connected with the right people throughout this entire industry to help with that process. Now, we were in there doing this factory tour. So I was there with, you know, George was there, Angelica, Dan, and Trent McJunkin. he's a phenomenal leader. He really understands maintenance and reliability, but he never stops understanding that. He keeps trying to learn. So we were in a little
Sure.
session where we were talking about the assets and kind of asset hierarchy, asset naming conventions, why it matters. We were also talking about inventory. And what happens when you see this in action and everybody's focused on solving the problem? Like, we get all these dialogues going, and it wasn't, oh, no,
Yeah.
you're wrong. It was, oh, that makes sense. What if we put this over here? And if we say that, and all of a sudden it all started coming together. That's actually how maintenance works as well. And that's why I wanted to talk about that. So people should be, I know it's fearful, right? You're vulnerable when you're going to take that accountability in maintenance and other aspects. Maybe you're a leader that doesn't get out from behind your desk and get out on the shop floor. You got to do that. And you think
Right.
you're out there with these folks and they're going to embarrass you with all their maintenance prowess and knowledge. Probably not if you're available for it, right? So this whole thing about team cohesion and working together, it's the sweet spot. It really is. So everything we keep talking about is almost always going to come back to that. And I just wanted to kind of shout that out. It was a brilliant experience for me. I got to tour a nearly 1 million square foot facility that is so dialed in, so clean, and I could see all the people. So here's the real thing I want to say. There was someone that was brought in for a new role that had this immense experience. And while we were touring, I got to see this man in action, working with people.
Okay.
And I saw how he was working with them, not, as you say, talking at them or coming at them. And to see that in action in the way you described it is really the way. Hey, yep, there's a mistake here. Let's figure out how we can fix it so we can all keep going. And that is what maintenance is about. It's what manufacturing is about. It's what we want when it comes to throughput. We want super high quality. And I want to quote just a little something. I hope I don't butcher this, but if you show me how you measure me, I'll show you how I'll behave. And that's a quote from Eli Goldratt from a book called The Goal. That's one of the influences in my life as a teenager that helped me put all of it together. And all this stuff just starts to culminate. And I think people should be a little bit more fearless and willing to take those chances to say, yeah, I screwed up. Yeah, I can help you. And then leaders, don't come over the top on everybody. You don't have to do that. You don't have to be soft, but direct, practical, and help people be better. That's all you got to do.
Yeah. One of the things we've been talking about lately is the idea of failing up, right? A failure and a mistake are two different things, right? I look at like a mistake as something that we probably should have caught, right? Like exactly what you're talking about. A failure is like, I took a risk. I thought this was the right direction to go. It was a calculated decision, but it failed. Okay. A mistake is like, I just did it. I didn't think it was going to work, or I slipped, or, and that stuff happens too, right? Accidents, mistakes happen. But was it carelessness, or was it, like you said, was it just confidence? Was it carelessness, or was it confidence? Right. I think those are two different things. And then you can learn from both of those. But you can't stop being confident and pushing the envelope and trying to do bigger things. And when something falls apart, when something goes wrong, you have to lead in a way that says like, hey, what happened here? Like, I think that's the start of the conversation. Like, what happened?
Yeah.
How did we get here?
Not what happened,
how do we
you're in
prevent it from
trouble, but
happening
what
again?
happened so we can all start figuring it out. 'Cause that confidence thing, I think we're all quite susceptible to it under varying circumstances where confidence can become hubris. And these concepts of, well, I've always done it that way. We've always done it this way. And,
worst answer ever.
And sometimes that's because there's uncharted territory for the individual or the team, or a situation has come up where the confidence could potentially erode. And when you feel your confidence in a situation eroding, I think it's really good, unless we're talking about like an emergency, right? Life is at stake. You got to stay in action and you just got to go and go. And if you screw it up, at least you tried. I get that. But something that might be healthy, I don't know for sure, is to all right, let me slow down just a bit. All right, I'm a little out of my depth here. I haven't done that for 20 years. There's 3 people here that are way better at this than me, and it's on my plate. Take a moment, take a breath, and go, wait a minute. How can we actually keep moving forward? Because that kind of confidence is dangerous from a safety perspective, an output perspective, all of it. And I think that's a hard thing for people to learn. A friend of mine named Rob Kalwarowski, he talks about like asshole bosses and how much potential they actually have. Rob's a great guy. And the thing he's taught me, and I think we hear it from others throughout our careers, developing self-awareness and willing to do the work. Just like maintenance, you got to do the work, right? But in the role of leadership or being a good team member and kind of failing up, that has a lot of self-awareness, and you have to be okay with that vulnerability. And it's scary. It's supposed to be scary. If you think it's just not scary, that's a bunch of hogwash, man, because the most confident people on the planet, I'll bet you dollars to donuts when Michael Jordan was shooting the ball with 3 seconds to go, he was motivated by his vulnerability. And he said, I do got this because I've thought that and failed. Makes him better.
And when you fail, you need somebody to tell you, hey, you failed. Like, let's talk about that. Right. It's a real thing. Larry James says, he's got a couple quick comments here. The first one is, fixing an emergency is unsafe because there's always a hurry state. And that's exactly what we're talking about, right? The pause, right? And to go along with that, I'm gonna piggyback both these answers together. If you blame a person, you miss the process error. 100% agree. So I think that idea of taking a pause is really, really important, right? Like, you have to, the Bible tells us that, be still, hold on, pause for a second, right? Take a breath. It's going to be okay. Like, you don't have to instantly react and respond. I mean, now if somebody's like squirting blood out of their arms, sure, we got to respond. But even then, you have to take a pause. You have to breathe. You have to assess the situation. You have to see what's in front of you. You got to look at your options and know what's going on before you just jump into action. Now, can you get paralysis by analysis? Absolutely. But it's healthy to be able to take a pause, to be able to look around and look at the people you trust. Anybody will tell you, I don't know anything about anything about the services. That's not right. I can't do the things that we do here. I'm not the guy. We have a team of people to be able to do those things. So when an issue comes up, customer has an issue with a job or something that doesn't go according to plan, I can give my initial response, which is typically, I'm sorry that this happened. I'm sorry that things didn't go as planned. We're going to get to the bottom of it. I'm going to meet with my team. We're going to figure out what's going on. And we're going to send you some corrective actions to make sure this doesn't happen again. Right? A pause, a breath. There's the accountability. We're admitting that something went wrong. I don't know why yet, right? I'm not going to make some stuff up. I'm not going to lie about it. I'm going to get together with my team and we're going to figure out what happened, why it happened, and we're going to make sure it doesn't happen again. But all of that happens in the pause. It's not reactive. It's not a reaction, it's a response. And I think that's where we have to get to with all of these things. When you look at blaming somebody, I mean, why are you blaming that person? If you're blaming somebody, that means you're in a position of authority above them, which means that you missed your job also, right?
That's true.
Ultimately, the blame goes up. It doesn't go down. It should go up, right? Credit goes down, blame goes up. That's the way that's supposed to work. So if somebody on my team makes a mistake, they made a mistake. If I don't have a conversation with them and it happens again, that's not on them. 100%. That's on me.
100%.
Right?
And that's leadership 101 that easily gets forgotten when someone starts to, try to be their title as opposed to being a leader, because a leader stands in front of the flak that's coming at you. They don't push you in front of them and say, yeah, I'm going to survive this because of my team. It's the other way around. And
that's right.
They're there to make everything keep moving forward. And they're there to say, hey, I'm not an expert at these 3 things, but I'm a leader that understands how to get that expertise and how to develop you into the expert that we all need, right?
That's right.
Individual
That's right.
contributors matter, but individual contributors in the context of the team, the entity, and how that moves. That's why CMMS is important, because you get to see, track, and manage everything that's happening, and you have a retrospective view, past, present, and future, to what's really happening. And that all kind of ties it together too. Might be a little bit of a stretch. People are like, oh, Greg, you guys are talking about the blame game. Now you're talking about CMMS. I just want to keep that context when it comes to everything we're doing is for a purpose, but individually we have variance in what our purpose is, what we love. Some people like to talk and interact.
Sure.
Other people like to, hey, leave me alone. I'm doing shit over here. So how do we balance all that out? This stuff is fascinating for me because it's all connected, and I don't know if we're right. I just think we're getting people thinking. That's all that matters. I love that.
But I think all the things that we're talking about, it's all related to maintenance in a certain way, right? Like, even when it's the thing we just talked about taking responsibility for it. If you recognize that your machine is glitching for whatever reason, there's something going on with your system, and you take it upon yourself to find a loophole, to find a different way to make it work, well, then who are you going to blame? You're going to blame the computer, you're going to blame the equipment, you're going to blame the manufacturer. There's warning signs, and when you see the warning signs, you have to respect the warning sign, and you have to make a decision based on that warning sign. You can't just move through it. All those things, like maintenance is such a big topic. Like at MD&M West, they gave me the News and Brews crew gave me the task of having like buzzwords with Tony, and I got to pick these words and we got to talk about them, and it was a lot of fun. But I think maintenance is one of those words that people don't totally understand. And it can mean different things to different people all the time, right?
There's a lot of muddy water there, and it's really an important thing to define maintenance. And simply stated, I might butcher this a little bit, and I invite anybody that's on here to chime in and tell us what maintenance is. I've got some friends out there that will just knock this out of the park 2 seconds flat. You wake them up out of a dead sleep and they will tell you exactly what maintenance is, right?
Sure.
Joe Anderson, Brian Bieski, Larry would be able to do this for sure. I can't see who all's on here right now because I'm focused on you, but maintenance is the act of maintaining. And what you're doing is you're keeping something in its baseline condition, what it was actually designed for. And that is it. As a piece of equipment, we'll talk specifically about that. Once it is commissioned and being used, so many things are going to come in so I'm going beyond the definition now to influence how you maintain it, such as how it's being operated, what the specific environmental factors are, on and on like this. But maintaining is the act of keeping something in its baseline condition within the parameters of its design intent. In other words, how it was designed to be built. You don't run some random stuff through that machine or operate it beyond its original design intent and expect it to actually survive or operate properly. You're going to lose things. It's going to run less efficiently. And that's what it's really all about. I would love somebody to chime in so you could show a comment on how they define maintenance. But once we define maintenance and we know what that act is, there it is. This is exactly who you want to listen to. So I'll let you read that.
Brian. Hi. Brian says, maintenance is inherently dangerous, regardless of preventative or reactive. The difference is leadership's approach to pumping the brakes and getting things out of the way.
Now, I'm going to tell you right now, Brian Bieski 100% gets it. He's a dear friend, but he's a true practitioner. He'll tell you I'm just a mechanic, right? And I have so much admiration and respect for this guy. I've learned from him, and he knows. So
so he goes on a little bit. He says maintenance is preserving function. I love that. And he also says maintenance is repair is restoring function after failure. So let's look at that again, right? Maintenance. Let's start with maintenance. Maintenance is, wait, I got one to the wrong one.
Preserving function.
Maintenance, preserving the function. Maintenance is preserving the function.
Repair.
Repair is restoring the function after failure. I love that.
So check this out. Everybody out there, and it's common, right? Hey, you do maintenance. That means you fix stuff. Well, that would be maintenance and repair. But too often in these environments, operators, leaders, something isn't working right. That's maintenance. That's the fault of maintenance. And that's not true. Maintenance is really there to convey risk. Maintenance is there to convey risk. Shout out to George Williams on that. And what Brian's pointing out there are two distinct types of activities that tend to happen in a maintenance department. But one is maintenance, one is repair. If you're fixing something, that's repair work. If you're maintaining something to keep it rocking and rolling and moving, and the way I like to describe shit with just, random colloquialisms, that is maintenance. But Brian gets it. And I think a lot of the people on this session would tend to agree with that. They might put a little bit of a spin on it. And this is another reason I love what I do. And what we're doing right now is we get to shore up and bring in not just opinions and viewpoints, but we get closer to the truth, something that's actionable, something that's practical. And that's where everybody's going off the rails with technology, people and process. You've seen this 1,000 times, Tony, with clients that you have where their leadership doesn't recognize the rest of the company in quite the right way that we'd want to see. And then vice versa, the team members, maintenance, whether it's maintenance or operators or other people like that, they're bitching and moaning about leadership. But all of those environments have immense potential if we can take the time to learn what we're really doing. I also am a big fan of people educating themselves in this space when it comes to maintenance. And if I throw you a huge curveball, I say, well, let's talk about your maintenance history, Greg. Well, for me, I wasn't turning wrenches. I was maintaining buildings and facilities. I was doing a little work in manufacturing environments. And then all that led me into the space in the first place when it comes to CMMS, because being a co-founder, we built it all in an internal environment that was managing hundreds of facilities of all different types with all different clients that incorporated our account management process, operations process, follow-up process, documentation process, soup to nuts. And then we launched the system for people to buy it because we never intended that. And it always comes back to, where was it born? Where was it formed? Why does it exist? And all these things just keep going.
I love it. So we have a question for you here. Tom Wilcock says, do you think the relations with your service providers, along with a frictionless CMMS experience, are key to a well-maintained asset register? We find FMs need to be influential and show leadership skills to bring them on the journey.
Well, I think it's really important, the service providers. Now, if we're talking about the vendors that do the work, that has to be a really strong relationship filled with trust, and that you're getting the right kind of service outcomes, service delivery from those individuals. If we're talking about the provider of the platform, the CMMS solution or something similar, there too, you need that same thing. And what I would add to it, and I think that's a great question, that the two-parter there is, we want to keep educating ourselves in our facilities management departments, our maintenance departments, about what's possible, but not overcomplicate it. You'll have everybody coming at you. I used to say, and I still feel this way, it might be a little bit harsh, but if you've got service vendors, service providers that are not satisfying what needs to be satisfied, and you can't get anywhere with calling it out and creating some accountability and actually working together, you don't have to crush them. If they're not willing to do that, if they're not willing to talk about it, or they can't answer the questions that matter to you, they are not the right service provider. And I tend to say that is that. It is that simple.
Absolutely.
Move on. Even find someone. Sometimes you take a chance on a service provider of any kind, and they are pure rock stars because they're all about it. And when you know. Sometimes you got to trust your gut and give people a chance. But if people are service providers to you and they're not helping you, they're not showing up, they're not coming through, they're not willing to take the smoke, right? when you are pissed
Mhm,
off or
mhm,
you're concerned, that is not your service provider, and they can just bounce. Forget about it. It is
No,
not worth it.
I agree. 100%. You know, when whether that's an IT service provider or, you know, a finance company or your bank or your insurance providers or whatever that looks like, right? Man, customer service is key in all of that, right? You have to listen to your customer, and you gotta come through for them when they
They
need
have the
it,
problem
right?
that you solved,
Uh,
and that's why you get to charge them money, and that's why you're supposed to be there for them so that we all win. Elusive win-win. So when they aren't doing that shit, tell them to read between the lines, baby.
Not only that, but you got to maintain the relationship. We're going to bring it back to
Always.
maintenance, right? It's all about maintenance. You have to maintain the relationship. We just had to, we fired a service provider a while back, and the question was why, right? It happened to be our IT company. We moved on our old IT company, and they asked me why, right? What can we, right? When we first met, I told you that I am not an IT person. I'm not an IT superstar. I don't understand it. That's what I'm hiring you for. That's what I want you to be. I want you to be an extension of our company, of who we are. I want you to come alongside of us and tell me, Tony, this is how you can get better. This is how you can optimize this. This is how you can be more efficient in that. Have you thought about doing these? What are your pain points when it comes to technology? Let's have that conversation so that you can come in and help me to be successful. Don't wait. There it is. Don't wait for the relationship to be fractured and broken to try and repair it. Maintain that relationship, come up with those solutions for me, look at my needs, look at what I'm doing, and tell me how I can get better. That's what your service people should be doing.
This is wild, man. This is wild. So that's really hard and costly to do, but what does it really cost when you don't? And what you're reminding me of is way back when we were in the building maintenance industry, we were doing something that, you know, anybody can do that kind of work. Essentially, they can, right? They can do it poorly, they can do it really, really well, or somewhere in between, right? Boom, boom, boom. Now, how do you set yourself apart? And we kept it really, really simple, being Midwest guys. We said, well, how about we just do what we say we're going to do? And
how about that?
You just come through, and you know, as you scale and get bigger, that gets harder and harder to do, but you have to maintain that intentionality. And there is not much in this industry, in this world, that is set it and forget it. There are no magic silver bullets. There are no unicorns that are shooting rainbow lasers out of their bunghole. It ain't happening. It just is not a thing.
It'd be pretty cool, but it's not a thing.
Well, yeah, you got to watch movies, or I don't know. I don't do this, but maybe drop a little acid or something.
It's not my thing. It's not my thing. Somebody might want to, but it's not my thing. But I think it's absolutely spot on, right? It's the reality of what that looks like. Shivaram says, building strong relationships with service providers is about fostering trust. Trust is such a big word, right? Trust is such a big word in so many different ways. He says, when they feel like partners, not just contractors, they're more likely to proactively contribute to the accuracy of the asset register. I mean,
100%.
that goes without saying with everything.
100%, because so that would be a service provider that you're cultivating, and they're cultivating you. They're nurturing the relationship, and they're understanding what you need. And when they're looking at your asset register, they're plugged in. They're plugged in. They're not just saying, hey, we want to do it our way. Last week, this came up where we heard a very interesting story. Brian Bieski, we heard a very interesting story about, you know, people will come into these environments and they will try to make that fit into what they're doing, as opposed to the other way around. So it's really important when you have service provider relationships like that, if you're either the provider or the recipient, the beneficiary of those services, you don't have to be lockstepped, but you have to be kind of close. You have to have these open dialogues, and you have to have that trust, because when someone continually comes through for you and they understand and they do actually solve your problems, it strengthens that bond based on trust. And what's interesting is that takes time, and it doesn't take very long to destroy it. You can destroy it in seconds by not coming through, not being there, having a bad day, and snapping at your customer. And sometimes customers can snap at their service providers, and the same thing happens, and they're like, man, I love you, but I ain't going to hear that. And
Right.
we got to be mindful of that kind of stuff. And you see how this all comes back to the human element, the basics that play a critical role in how we move forward, because anything we do in maintenance and reliability, maintenance best practices, you have to have that fundamental basis, and you have to first be effective to then become efficient. Everybody wants efficiencies, and those are there for the taking.
Sure.
But you can't make inefficient or ineffective processes efficient. Otherwise, it's going to be trash. It's just like garbage in, garbage out. If you don't maintain contextual data that matters to what you're doing and why you're collecting it, you just got a bunch of data, and that looks like spaghetti, and then it's spaghetti warmed over, and it just becomes a mess. And I'll always talk about this stuff, and then somebody out there's like, Greg, you're making it too complicated. No, you are. I'm not trying to focus on top line, bottom line. I'm trying to focus on the people and what really makes it all happen. And maybe I'm not right, but I'm just going to keep rolling this way, because all you got to do is care a little bit, and it's just head and shoulders above your perceived competition. Forget about the competition. Do what you do it well, do your maintenance, care about it. And if you're in a place that doesn't care that you care, then get out of there. Don't sit there and fight that battle and try to change it. That's for somebody else to do.
Right. We, Brian has a comment here. He says, don't be a yes man. Learn to tell customers no if you cannot perform or come through for them. I think that's a huge thing. I mean,
It's
too many
big.
times people will say, I can do that. We can do that. No, we got this.
How about this? How about when I say, you know what, we can't do that. And, I know a couple of people that can, but I want to make sure we talk about that right here, right now. As much as I'd like to help you, I know that I can't.
Right.
That is the kind of integrity that is constantly at risk in everything we do. And I get it. People want to make their money and do their thing, but when you can't do shit, don't say that you can. And Brian's 100% right.
Yeah.
All the people we know in common, like our really super tight group, they're all about that. They're not afraid to say, I cannot do that. And they're also not afraid to say, I know someone who can do that, and it might be their competition, but they instead look at that as an opportunity for that potential client to go and thrive. That is how you do it. And you think it costs you money, but it doesn't. What it gives you is the strongest, most kind of well-known integrity in the way of reputation. And that lasts forever. That too can be destroyed in an instant if you start screwing around. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I get it. I think along with telling people we can't do that, I think there's also a strength in telling people we shouldn't do that. Right. Like that's a really hard one sometimes, because you get a customer and the quote is the customer's always right. Right. And so a customer tells you, like, I want you to do this, this, and this. And you look at it and your team looks at it and you go, I don't think that's the right thing to do. I don't think we should do that. I think we could jack this up even worse if we do that.
They could really hurt themselves if we do this for them.
Yeah. And the customer goes, listen, I told you this is what I want you to do. Now you have that ethical dilemma. Do you want to keep your customer happy?
Unless you're helping.
Right.
If you're actually helping and you're not selling and you're not trying to convince them that your freaking magic juju is the best and you got the best kung fu or whatever, put that all aside. If you're actually trying to help, I think it's worth the risk to say, hey, we've seen a couple things here. We're really concerned about that. And we wouldn't advise against it, but here's why. And we should explore that before you actually do it. We got to make sure, because if somebody's about to go off a cliff and you're choosing between them going off a cliff and you making, $10 million or whatever the hell it is, I mean, I get it. You're beholden, but that's the problem with being beholden. It takes balls and guts and intent to have that kind of integrity. And I love the way you shouted that out. That's good.
We had a situation like that. I'm not going to get into names and dates and people and places and things, but we had a customer that was telling us to do something in a repair situation, mold repair situation, and our lead guy said, Tony, that's not the right way to do that. Like that's not going to solve the problem. That's not the main issue. There's a thing underneath the issue, right? Like there's a problem behind the problem that we need to solve first. And if we just do what the customer's asking us to, we're gonna cause a much bigger issue for them in the long run. And so if we talked and we went back to the customer and we shared that information with them, and they got pissed. Like they were not happy. They're like, I told you what to do. You don't want to do what I want to do. Just send the tool back to us. And we're like, okay, send it back to you. This is still what we recommend. We would love to work on it, but this is the way we're going to do it. This is the way we think we should do it. And they said, send it back. So then I talked to my father afterwards. My father started our business. So, he's still got a hand in what's going on. He comes in and pokes the bear every once in a while. And, he tells me what I'm doing wrong, and it's a lot of fun. And he said, Tony, he told you what he wanted you to do. Just do it and shut up. Do it. I said, Dad, it's not the right thing to do. We can't do that. It's going to cause more problems. He's like, well, now you got a problem because you got a pissed off customer. I said, you're right. We got a pissed off customer, but we decided as a team that wasn't the right thing to do for the job. We wanted to make sure that the right thing to do was the right thing to do. The customer wants a tool back. We're going to send it back to them, and we'll see what happens from there. That's what it's going to look like. Well, they brought the tool back, and they had it molded in a different facility than the place that they were getting the samples done, and it molded perfectly. So the difference wasn't the material itself. It wasn't the actual mold. It was the process that was being used to mold the parts. And so if we would have done what we were asked to do, we would have destroyed this thing. It was the process that needed to be looked at. So like everything needs to be looked at. If we would have just done what we were supposed to do, we're screwed. Like this is never going to work properly. Right. And my father didn't get it because it's an old school mentality, right? Just do what the customer says. Just do it. Well, we feel like we are the professionals in this situation. We know what we're doing. We're trusted for a reason, right? And if you trust us, then you should listen to us. And if we advise something, then let's take a look at what that actually is, knowing that we're not trying to screw you over. We're trying to do what's best for you and for your company.
Yeah, it's about influence and developing and leveraging that influence, but leveraging is not the right word. When you have influence, it's because the other party is influenceable and vice versa. So you're doing a much better job of communicating, listening, and understanding. And I think that kind of customer is always right and just do what the customer says. They don't know what they don't know. And we have to be willing to understand we might not know what we don't know. So we got to, as we inch up to, hey, we know exactly what we're doing. That's okay if that's absolutely the case, right? There are instances where that might be the case, but you got to leave a little bit of room for further exploration. And that's another situation where if you hurry up and you go and do that, the outcome is just not going to be good. And then the relationship is destroyed forever. And oftentimes when someone knows you're doing it because you care about what the outcome is going to be for them and not about you, that's the stuff. And that's the stuff that I think on one hand, I say it's hard for organizations to do that. And I think it's because they make it hard and because they're beholden. On the other hand, even if it is hard, I think it's important that you do it.
Yeah.
It also kind of depends what it is. There's some instances where it's like, it's just a thing. You buy it, you don't, nobody cares. And it's actually true. But this stuff about maintenance, about what you do, anything with, fabrication, machine shops, all this stuff, it's so much more critical than people want to believe or understand because we're out here in the world consuming things, using things. We rely on things and we don't know anything about what's going into it. I'll tell you earlier this year when I met you at
MD&M West.
At MD&M West and at the conference that was co-located with Sustainable Manufacturing Expo, which that's happening the same time next year. But what was really interesting for me is when I was talking to some of the companies and at these booths about the machines that they provide, and I wanted to talk about the machines that make the machines and, do you know anything about your factory environment? Have you ever talked to any of the people that are in your maintenance and reliability program? and
Sure.
what happens to this machine when it gets into its environment. And at least 9 times out of 10, crickets, no
Yeah.
awareness. And this
Yeah.
all comes back to kind of one of the other passions that I think I kind of have, is where I want more on kind of the customer facing side with these companies, whether it's CMMS, manufacturing, equipment providers, and all that. I'm not saying you have to be like, know everything. That's just not possible. But
Sure.
you got to be a little bit better about who you are, why your stuff exists, what makes it good. You have to understand your own process that you're probably selling to somebody else. And if you don't, just find a way to improve that. Quit throwing around buzzwords and thinking that when your potential client has a need, has a request, or has a question or a concern, that it's somehow not important because it doesn't fit what you're trying to do. It's got nothing to do with what you're doing. It has to do with what your clients are doing. Because what happens if we don't have any clients, Tony?
We're broke ass.
That's right. Unless we go over to Mickey D's and say, hey, you got an opening or whatever it is. And there's nothing wrong with working at a place like Mickey D's. What I'm saying is we're trying to solve real problems and not just sell a bunch of pet rocks. No offense to people that sell pet rocks.
That's it.
We can do that sometimes too.
Well, and they're filling a need too. They're filling a need of extreme loneliness. If somebody's buying a pet rock, loneliness and laziness. That's the pet rock.
Depends what you do with your pet rock. I've heard some stories, man.
I guess so. It's so much fun. Man, we could talk about these things forever. And
that's what I'm going to do.
And I would be happy to keep doing it. I'm loving all the continuous conversations. Shivam says, where'd it go? Professionalism isn't about people pleasing. It's about delivering results. Saying no when necessary demonstrates competence and respect for the customer's time and resources. It's about setting boundaries and maintaining control over our own capacity. Love all of that, right? And then he went on to say, we should consult, don't just sell. Stand firm on your professional recommendations. I love that. I mean, listen, if you didn't come here for any other reason than a little nugget of wisdom, you just got it. That's what it's about, right? Brian chimed in again. He said, always bringing people together to understand and solve problems. Customers don't know what they don't know, but they will be more sour over poor outcomes than you saying no. I mean,
that's right.
Totally true, right? Like you have to know you have to know that it's the right direction to go. And again, it's all about maintaining the relationship with your customer, maintaining your tool, maintaining your needs, maintaining your services, maintaining all those things. Maintenance is such a big part. Eric Sandberg from National Tool, he sent me a message and he said, I've been on the phone. I might have missed some of it. You didn't miss it. We didn't talk about this. A 5 to 10 man shop can't have a full-time maintenance person, and spot repairs are crippling with factory service rates. How do you handle that? How do you handle a smaller shop that doesn't have the resources to go look for all these things all the time?
Well, I think that's where they have to go back and evaluate how they're developing that strategy. And it sounds like in that situation, you're kind of caught in the middle, and you might have to make I don't like saying this, but you might have to make some critical choices on what's prioritized. That's typically what that comes down to. And if you do get in a situation where you can't manage it that way, then you have to figure out what gap is preventing the availability of the resource to actually keep up with all that. Because if that problem is recurring, no matter what, you're going to have to solve that problem or find out what's actually causing it. It might not be the lack of the available resource. It might be some other thing about the way the business is being run. Sure. Kind of makes sense. I think I want to be really careful with that, because that's a really common one that we see out there when you're in that smaller range. And where do we find the resource, the money? And we might not know what's really causing the problem. So if there's that much kind of breakage happening with equipment and machines, there might be something wrong with the actual machines, or there might be a better way to optimize how the way in which they're cared for
Sure.
so that actually doesn't happen. So they want to go back and do a really proper assessment, and you're not going to do that overnight. You're going to actually spend some time on that, and you might need a consultant, a legit consultant, like someone who's not there to just take your money, but someone that's there to find the problem, show you where it is, make sure we all agree on it, and then solve it. Selling and delivering services like that and getting these outcomes, it's about one thing only. It's about help solve a problem. But sometimes that also includes, often it also includes finding the problem, not creating it, not fabricating it, not fear, uncertainty, and doubt crap. Forget about that. That person has a big opportunity if they can slow down a minute and assess it and figure it out. If they're stuck firefighting, they'll never solve it because they got to try to keep up.
Yeah.
Hope I help.
Obviously, you have a lot that you like to talk about when it comes to maintenance. So, and I mean, we've been talking for an hour and a half now. I mean, the first, 8 minutes was me blathering on, but most of this has been us talking about maintenance and the things that matter. You have a whole thing that you're doing, CMMS Radio. Why does it exist? Like, tell me about CMMS Radio. Tell the listeners about CMMS Radio, and why they need to start tuning in and being part of what you're doing with that.
So it's all about the maintenance management in the middle, the people in the process, but CMMS, being computerized maintenance management software, is kind of a vast landscape. There's a lot of solutions out there, a lot of different messaging, a lot of noise, and people are kind of lost. I want people to get good guidance, great journey stories that give them some insights on what they could do. I also sometimes will connect people with the right people to solve their problem. But the real issue for me is that there's a lot of garbage information out there, a lot of the same over and over messaging, and the software isn't the real thing. It's the actual people and process. And I'm always going to come back to that. And people need concepts and ideas and guidance on how they're going to build better business cases so they can get a solution. People need to know or hear that the solution they have that's failing might not be beyond recovery. You might need to go back and fix some of the basics. I want to talk about all those things. And it's also that all the users of these types of platforms and people that have maintenance management, that need maintenance management, maintenance and reliability, can have a resource to hear conversations that are meaningful and actually real, that are unscripted, and they're not about selling anything, none of that kind of crap. I mean, we might promote a few things, but that's more like sponsor stuff. And then for the industry as a whole, I want CMMS companies to, what I really want is I want to know who's the most fearless. Everybody's saying, what's the best CMMS out there for me? And they come to CMMS Radio wondering, here's the first thing you're going to hear. The best CMMS on the planet is the one that your people will use, because
there
if your frontline workforce does not do the inputs that drive the information and what you need for the outcome, you are dead in the water. I don't care if you spend $10 million or $1,000. That's the sweet spot. And too many companies out there want to figure out who's the best. And there's no answer to that question other than what I just said. And then people might say, well, Greg, how does that help me? Well, here's how it helps you. Let's find some companies that will tell you who they really are, why they were. I can tell you the solution that I had, why we built it, who we served, exactly, soup to nuts, top to bottom. No chance. If they gave it to me tomorrow and said, hey, you can have this and go run the company and bring it back to market, I would do it. And I would definitely be okay with it, because I always think that's the secret. Who are you? How do you actually help them? I don't care about your features. I don't care about your little, product. I care about the problem that you solve. And too many of these CMMS providers out there, I'm not going to call you by name. You'll know who you are when I say this. If you can't tell me who you are, who you serve, what makes you different, what's your secret sauce, then you're not telling your customers that either. You're trying to be everything to everyone, and that's a bunch of nonsense. And I know your boardroom won't like it, and the top line revenue won't be impacted by it. But when you do business in a better way and you're fearless enough to be who and what you are and actually do it better than anybody on the planet, then you're the best in what you do.
Sure.
And that pays long-term dividends. And now you have customers that tend to stick with you for life. We can't control customer change, and, leaders leave, champions leave, and all that. This is always going to go like that. But I hope that makes sense. I'm a little bit righteous, and I think it's because I was in the industry trying to make a difference, trying to really come through for my clients. We weren't perfect for everyone, but we were very intentional. And when that all kind of went away, I'm not gonna lie, it broke my heart. I think about it a lot, and I was kind of pissed off when I washed out. And
Yeah.
that was why I started CMMS Radio in the first place, because I think I can help, and I think I can kind of help everybody, a little here, a little there. So I'm
Right.
doing exactly what I said you shouldn't do. Don't be everything to everyone.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, you bring people on to have those conversations with, so that you don't have to be the thing that everything to everyone, right? You can do that with other people. And Scott Peters applauds. He says, "Yay!" Yeah, I think those are applause. Are those applause, or is
I
that him
hope so.
shaking his head? I can't tell.
Thank you,
It's a
Scott.
weird emoji there. And he also said it takes a special kind of individual. Finding the root cause is a CSI role, and it takes a person that can look into the problem to see what the cause is and then how to resolve it once and for all. That's exactly what we're talking about.
Scott's exactly right about that, and I love the analogy of CSI. And I think a lot of the people that might even be watching, I'd much rather hear from them, like, what is it? Why does CMMS Radio exist? What's good about it? And I'm going to tell you a little story, if you don't mind.
Sure, go.
I went to a conference I was brought into for the first time ever. Somebody reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you want to come to this conference?" It was actually Reliable Plant out in Orlando in 2023.
Okay.
And I've got a little area set up where I can do podcasting, and I'm meeting people. And somebody came up to me to say hello and to shake my hand. And hey, I listened to your stuff and I love it. And I was floored. Talk about a moment of gratitude, and I didn't know what to do with it, because I have a tough time with that, because I want to stay really, really grounded, and I love
feels
having
weird.
fun, and I get really animated, and I want to be that. And it's like, oh yeah, you killed that, man, or whatever. Yeah. That's cool. But it was such a humbling moment. And this individual, his name is Matthew Knuth. He works for an awesome company. He's an absolute beast when it comes to his integrity, his understanding of the industry, and the fact that he's not out here trying to take people's money. He's trying to solve problems, right?
Yep.
And I said to Matt, I said, "Man, dude, I appreciate that, man." I said, "Why do you listen? I mean, what do you even like about it? Why would you even bother?" And he said, "Dude, you're not a effing talking head."
Yeah. That's a big thing.
I felt good about that, because I didn't realize that was what I wanted to hear, what I was going for, because I don't know how to do that. And I just want to give a special shout out to Matt Knuth for that moment, because and there've been others with other people, but I am very grateful for that, and the people that support, participate, come on and contribute by having these great stories on CMMS Radio. Even some of the companies that are like, "Hey, can we come on?" and all that. I mean, I really appreciate that, because I kind of want to be a conduit. I want to sit in the middle and do a little bit of. I want to take shots. I want to take AI and I want to smush it with a can crusher and say, "Hey, let's see what's left." Right? I want to take your nonsense, empty promises of tomorrow that are total BS, and I want to call that out. I want to say, "Hey, take all those cool buzzwords and throw them out the damn window, because they don't matter." And I want to do that in a way that makes a difference. I'm not opposed to the shock value of it, but I just try to keep it real, and I want to help everybody, and that's just not possible, and that's why I keep doing it.
Yeah. Scott Peters says, is CMMS Radio an IoT 4.0 software that listens to the machine systems?
It is not. It's a podcast that wants to talk about Industry 4.0 and what it is and what it isn't. I think we got to be real careful with that. I don't know how opinionated you want me to get. I think in Industry 4.0 is two things, and I've learned this from some different people. You've got the industrial revolutions. You got 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm not in agreement that there's a 5 right now. People are talking about it, and that's way too soon. That ain't it. Then there's Industry 4.0 as it relates to the technology and how that plays in the world of CMMS, maintenance management, data transformation, whatever the hell you want to call it, right? I think we're kind of in that, still trying to understand it. I think a lot of people are being sold a bill of goods. I think there's a lot of, magic silver bullets. I'll talk crap about that all the time.
Yep.
People think it is something that it's just not. If you don't have the right maintenance maturity and you don't have the basics done, none of that stuff's going to help you. And lots of the people that are out there helping you with that are selling you that, a lot of it's nonsense. I mean, I will crush sensor monitoring and all that stuff like all day long, because so much of it is surface level nonsense, and I don't like that. Yeah, go sell your stuff, but man, I don't like when you're selling 2,000 sensor monitors to somebody that needs 80.
Yeah. No, it makes sense.
What's the
It
point?
makes
You
sense.
make your number and they get fleeced. What's the point?
Yeah.
If I came into your environment where you're doing manufacturing, Tony, and I looked around and I did a criticality assessment, and we figured out, well, you've got 7 machines here that actually need this type of monitoring because it's going to give you, vibration data or temperature monitoring, whatever it might be. Now we're talking about how do we add value so we can maintain or create more availability, better uptime of those machines, less failures.
Yep.
But someone else is going to come in there and go, well, you've got 92 machines, so you need 92 sensors, and then we can add this sensor, so now you need 184. I mean,
right.
Get the fuck out of here with that.
Right.
Sorry.
Right. Well, I mean, we talked about that before. That's the difference between selling your product and selling a solution, and actually building that trust for your customer. And once your customer knows that you screwed them over, you're donezo. I mean, you're
right.
out. You're out.
Damn right. Unless they're in on it.
Well, listen, that's a whole that'll take us another hour and a half to have that.
I thought I heard the mailman, so I'm waiting for some checks in the mail. You know what I'm saying? I'm scared.
So listen, you want to play 5 questions?
Let's do it, man.
All right. Let's see. Let's see if this actually works now. Can you hear the music? We got some music going. All right. That's good. I don't want it to be too loud, but I want it to be fun. So here's our first question. Would you rather be the world's greatest tetherball player or find $100 on the ground?
Oh, tetherball player, baby.
Yeah, you are the first person to say that they would like to be the world's best tetherball player.
Well, I know what it is. I'm kind of old, man.
Most people are just like, it's tetherball. I'd rather have $100. But now I know that if I drop $100 and I can offer you the world's best tetherball player, you'll take that instead. That's great.
Yep.
All right. Question number 2. What minor inconvenience bothers you the most for no real reason?
Oh, man. Traffic and stoplights, baby.
Oh, gosh. Traffic is like the worst thing ever because it makes no sense. It's just like you're stopped and then you're moving. I don't understand it.
Well, it's all perspective, man. Chill. I hate it. Oh, it drives me nuts.
Chill, baby. Just chill. We don't chill in Illinois. We're like, let's go. We got to move. Let's go. We got things to do.
Yeah, get through that loop.
Question number 3. Now, this one is kind of fun. This one takes a little bit of thought. If you were promised $10,000 to cut off a finger, and then for each additional finger, 10x that amount. So 2 fingers would be 100,000, 3 fingers is 1 million, and so on from there. How many fingers would you cut off?
Whoa. Well, and I have to answer at least one, right? So
No, you don't have. I mean, you can say none. You can say you're just not going to take any money. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, you're just promised 10 grand to take one, and then it just grows. So like, you take off.
I got to be able to do this. So,
yeah.
Boy, it's awfully enticing, but I got a buddy that lost a thumb to a shark late last year. So I'm going to pretend that I would say, nope, keeping all my fingers.
Yeah. I think it's real easy to say that since there's no real ask of it. But I mean, you could for
I like that $1 million, dude.
I mean, yeah,
3 fingers, man. You can't do
3 fingers is 1 million, but at 5 fingers, it just keeps going. I mean, you're like $100 million.
Not doing that.
Yeah.
Money's not worth it, dude. I'll keep my fingers, dude. I might do one and get that. Yeah, I don't know.
You can make one awesome robot hand, though.
Oh, good point.
I mean, just think of the maintenance you could do with a real kick-ass robot hand. I mean,
And
you
if
wouldn't
you-
need a
if you-
toolbox. You just got a robot hand.
You ditch the whole hand and you've got so much money that you can design an apparatus that's like some
That's what I'm
Iron Man shit.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I mean, let's move on.
We're gonna have to keep that one going.
Yeah. If you're out in the world, question number 4, you're out in the world. How many owls would you have to see before you realize that's way too many owls in one day?
Probably
Something
like
ain't right.
3 or 4, 3, 4, 5, something like that. I'd be like,
3,
wait
4,
a minute, that's too many. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, 3, all right, maybe they're all hanging around here. This is their spot. You get like 4 or 5, you got to be like, all right, dude. If you hit 10, there's a serious problem going on. That's like Waffle Houses shutting down for the day.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if you see 10 owls, even if you're at a zoo, that's too many owls. Yeah. Something is going to happen. It's going to go wrong.
Yes.
All right. So 3, 4, 5. 3 or 4 is normal. 5 would be something's a little bit off.
Yeah.
When we get to 10, we got problems.
Yeah.
Question number 5. Do you think there are more doors or wheels in the world today?
Wheels.
Wheels. What do you base that on?
I think of vehicles of all different type, right?
Okay.
Bicycles, motorcycles, cars, all of it, right?
Yeah.
And I'll bring this into maintenance too. There's a lot of wheels in the maintenance environment too, rollers, all that kind of stuff. So it's wheels.
Yeah. Listen, we go back and forth on this. My son and I go back and forth on this all the time. Because if you look around, like your kitchen has a bunch of pantry doors. It's got cupboard doors. You got all kinds of doors. You got car doors. It's a door. A door is a door. A wheel is a wheel. So it's like, how do you figure that out?
Yeah. And I guess if we look at the hinges, we got to figure out, is there anything in there that represents a wheel? Boy, we might not solve this one.
No, I don't think we're going to. But
why? It's a great question.
That's 5 questions. It's a stupid fun thing that we like to do to kind of wrap things up a little bit, just to ease the tension. But the last thing that we like to do on our show before we say goodbye is we like to pray. So if you're still with us, if you're still listening, if you enjoyed 5 questions and you have any prayer requests, go ahead and put those in the chat. It's an important part of what we do, because I think prayer is a really important part of what we do. So if you have any prayer requests, go ahead and put those in the chat. And while we're waiting on that, Greg, what else, how does somebody get a hold of you? I didn't want to put all your contact information out there, in case you didn't want them to have it. But how does somebody get a hold of you to learn more about CMMS Radio or what you're doing with the CMMS as a whole?
All right. So number 1, CMMS Radio. I'd love for you to follow the company page on LinkedIn. That's where I tend to play. You can also find me on there and connect if you want to have a conversation, if you have a project, anything like that. And I do have people I can hook you up with, but I'm not here to sell you anything. I just want to hear your story. Let me know if I can help. There is CMMSradio.com. That's going through a rebuild last half of this year, maybe starting in about a month. So do your best there. Got the YouTube channel and Spotify. Spotify is pretty good because it goes all the way back to the beginning. A lot of random stuff. It's not a clever library. Just get in there, consume some of it. Anybody that's on, hook up with them. I know some real deal heavy hitter pros that are not selling you stuff, that they want to help. They want to mentor. I've got, dare I say, a stable of individuals that I know will come through for you. So CMMS Radio LinkedIn company page, number 1. Hit me up on LinkedIn if you want to talk, and then maybe grab the Spotify or the YouTube channel to keep up on all the video content. But I'm here for the stories. I'm here to make a difference. If I'm ever not doing that, hit me up. I'm here to take the smoke.
No, I would say if just for my experience, if you need to get a hold of Greg, LinkedIn is the way to go. He's very, 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 very quick to respond in that regard, and make sure that everything is taken care of. We've had most of our conversations leading up today via LinkedIn, and it's been a very responsive, very good situation for me. I think for you, hey.
Yeah, dude, I love it, man. It's sometimes I'm like, why did I do this social thing? But other times I'm like, man, that's so cool, that's so valuable, that's so insightful, or an opportunity gets created. I hear from people all the time, oh, I heard this and I'm talking to so and so and they're helping me with that.
Yeah.
That is the stuff. It's not like, oh, hey, where's my piece? No, I don't care. Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit, I
Yeah.
wish I'd win the lottery then you'd see me come out fucking really hot, man.
Dude,
Scorched earth, baby.
I tell people all the time, I would be a fantastic rich person. I would be great. I would be a great rich person. I don't need that much. I think it would be great. Hopefully, listen, I'm rich in my faith and in my life. I don't need all the money. The money's going to get in the way. So
money's just a tool, just like CMMS is just a tool.
That's it. That's it. Greg, do you have any prayer requests before we get out of here?
I've got one. Recent times, I just want to quickly say, God or whatever higher power any of you pray to, watch over and help and guide and, give us the best possible outcome for everybody in the Carolinas, South Carolina, dealing with these fires. It's rough stuff. We had some of that crap out in LA, and I just want to put that out there. And, I won't go into the standard spiel. I do the evening prayer at dinner, and that's a pretty long one, but everybody have some gratitude out there, and it's okay to wish the best for people, whether you know them or not. Just put it out there into the world.
No, I love that. I love that. How are you guys safe with the fires?
For me, out here on the West Coast, we didn't have to deal with any of that stuff, but I just left South Carolina. It was my first visit, and the day I got home, I pull up the internet, catching up on some news, and there's wildfires in South Carolina. So don't like to see that. Beautiful part of the country, and just want all those people know that they're being thought of and put some good juju out into the universe in hopes that it makes a difference.
No, I love that. I love that. All right. I'm going to pray for us real quick, and then I'm going to let you go because I got some other things to do, and I'm sure you have I'm sure you got some things to do today as well. So I'm going to pray real quick, and then we'll get out of here. So Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for allowing me to meet Greg and have this new friendship. I pray that this was slightly informative and maybe a little bit entertaining for people, and maybe it put a smile on their face that wasn't going to be there without it. I pray that people would learn how to maintain their relationships and their leadership and their businesses and their tools and whatever it is that they're looking for, the way that you maintain relationship with us. And so we just pray for continued safety in our work environment. We pray for growth in our industries. We pray for our economy, and that there's less suffering around the world, and that even when there is, we can take comfort that we are not in this alone. That you're there with us. That you are in control of those things. You're in control of our lives. We don't just pray to say words and have empty thoughts and promises, but because we know that you're there. And you can actually do something with that and for us. And so we give you this time. We pray for the people that have suffered from fires or disasters or whatever that looks like. And we just pray that whatever it is that we're going through, whether it's sickness, disease, finances, natural disasters, worries, that we can remember that we can put our trust in you, and we can find comfort in you, and we can find stability in you because you're there for us and you love us. And we pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Tony. This was really a blast for me. It was an absolute honor. Love chopping it up with you. Can't wait to do it again, man.
Yeah, but it was a great time. I appreciate that you were at MD&M West and we got to spend that time together. So thank you for everything that you're doing, your passion for maintenance, your passion for the industry, for reaching out to people, for trying to better people's situation, their organizations, helping people to have success. It's been great to get to know you, and I really look forward to doing this again in the future. So thank you. I hope you have a great day, and we'll chat again soon.
All right. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, brother. So that's Greg Christensen from CMMS Radio. I hope that you found that interesting and inspiring. I hope that it made you think about maintenance in a different way, right? We all have things in our lives that need to be maintained, whether that, like we said, is our maintenance, is our relationships, to the people we work with, or the people at home, in our personal life, in our professional life, whatever that looks like, right? Whether that's the tools we have, the cars we drive, our health, maintenance is really, really important. and it's something that we can't take for granted and we can't neglect. And so I hope that you got some stuff from today. I hope that you enjoyed today. I know that I enjoyed the conversation and being part of it, and I look forward to continuing those conversations with you and with Greg in the future. If you'd like to be part of the show, we would love to tell your story, right? Everybody has a story to tell. Everybody has an experience. Everybody is doing something unique. And the only way that our industry continues to grow is if we continue to tell our stories. And when we tell our stories, it shows people what we do. It shows people why manufacturing is so cool. So if you'd like to be part of the show, we want to have you on the show. All you have to do is contact us, contact me at Tony@AllianceLaserSales.com, and we will get you on the show. We'll have you on. We'll get you some information. It's really, really easy, and it's a lot of fun. So please do that. If you need more information about Alliance and what we do and how we can help you, please, same thing, same address, Tony@AllianceLaserSales.com. We are here for you. We're here to help out in any way that we can. That's what we're here for. This is not a moneymaker for me. This is just us hanging out, having fun, telling stories, getting to know people, and finding new ways to connect and serve each other. We will see you at PT Expo. PT Expo is in a couple weeks. Don't forget about that. Booth 1426. Come see us. Come see us and bring a backpack, bring some school supplies, bring some food that we can give to people in need. That would be great to have your participation with that. And last but not least, upcoming shows. Come on, it's not clicking. Upcoming shows. We've got a bunch of good stuff coming up down the line. Next week is my friend Megan Ziemba from the Mavens of Manufacturing. Then we're going to be at PT Expo on the 19th. We're going to have some fun there. We're still trying to figure out if we're going to do some shows or if it's just going to be come by, say hello, and have some fun with us. March 26th, my friend Jen Barlin from Falcon Plastics is supposed to be with us. I believe she's coming into the studio, so that's going to be amazing. April 2nd, Lexington Peterson from Engel North America will be joining us. And April 9th, Lindsay Mann from MTD Micromolding will be here. If you remember the episode from a couple weeks back with Gary, yes, same company. But with Lindsay, we're going to take a shift. We're going to be talking about different things. We're going to be talking about what it looks like marketing a manufacturing company. And it should be a lot of fun. I love marketing. I love the idea of marketing. So those are our upcoming shows. Those are all the things we have going on. I hope that you enjoyed today. I hope that it brought you some value. I hope that you laughed a little bit. I hope you had some fun. I hope that you were entertained a little bit. And if you were, please like and subscribe to the show. It's the only way that we can keep this growing. It's the only way that you're going to know when we're going to have more episodes coming out and what's going to be happening in and around the Manufacturing Alliance. And that's all I'm going to say for today. So on behalf of myself and Greg and Alliance and CMMS Radio, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Take care and God bless.